Welcome back, everyone. For today's Conker's Rants, I want to talk about my top 10 favorite games of all time. I don't want to say, they're the best games of all time for the most part, just because it's a subjective thing. I know some of these games some people might not like or might not think are perfect, but for me, these are my favorite games for either nostalgic reasons that I grew up with them, or for they are just, a really great game. So anyways, let's just get into it. Number 10 on my list is a game that should come as no surprise to anybody who follows me anywhere. It's actually surprising that it is so low on the list, but compared to the other games on this list, I would say it's not as good in terms of its length and amount of gameplay. But number 10 is Conker's Bad Fur Day. I love this game. I love all the characters. I love the humor. I love the gameplay. I love the story. I just think it's just such a great game, and I remember playing this when it came out and it blowing my mind with how cute it was, because it was like a banjo game, but it wasn't cute at all. It was very adult for the time. But yeah, if you're into Banjo-Kazooie games and stuff like that, or anything from Rare from this era, definitely check this game out. This game is amazing. It is one of my favorite games of all time, and it's number 10 on my list.
Calm down. I'll go and get it for you. No worries.
So for number 9 on my list, is a game that I adore. I always say it's a comfort game for me, because if I'm ever stressed out or upset over anything, generally, for whatever reason, I'll just throw this game in and play it for a little while, and it always somehow makes me feel better. It's just such a great game. It's definitely flawed, but still a great game. And that game, number 9, is Sonic Adventure, specifically the Dreamcast version, because I like the texture work and stuff a lot better, and the character models a lot better on this original. This game changed a lot for me, because it was really the first 3D Sonic game that we'd got that was actually a full-fledged game. When this came out in 99, this was crazy on Dreamcast. The graphics were mind-blowing for the time, because this was before the PS2 had aired and stuff like that. I know this game means a lot to a lot of people nowadays, so I'm sure that there's not going to be that many people that'll say this game is not great or anything like that. But I love it, and it's a comfort game for me. I always end up going back to it. I've played through it so many times, and I highly recommend it to any Sonic fans or any platforming fans, especially 3D platformers. The best way to play is definitely the Dreamcast version, in my opinion, because a lot of the subsequent versions that they put out, like the Adventure DX versions, have a lot of flaws and bugs that this game doesn't have. So the next game on my list, number 8, is a game that might be contentious to a lot of people, because a lot of people do not like this game. And there's a lot of hate for it, and I feel like this game is just a very misunderstood game. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. This is my number 8. It is Sonic CD. This is my favorite 2D Sonic game, hands down. I've played this game so many times. It never gets old to me. I just love it. And the reason it's contentious is because a lot of people will say that the level layouts and the design of the game is actually bad, but I would argue that it's designed specifically to be a different kind of Sonic game than, say, Sonic 2 or 3. It's, I don't want to say exploration based, but it's very learn the levels based. If you learn the levels and you get good at the levels and you know where to go, it's a very easy game. It's definitely more, I would say, momentum based, on trying to gain speed in certain areas to get yourself up to speed to be able to time travel and stuff like that, because this game has a very weird plot with time, and you have to travel through time essentially and go back in time into the past version of stages to destroy these machines that Robotnik has created to create a good future at the end of every stage. And if you do that, you end up getting all the Chaos Emeralds, and you end up getting a good ending. You can just play straight through the game and not do any of that, and you'll get through the game in a couple hours max. is not a hard game, I would say, if you're just going to do that. The difficulty comes in getting the good ending. And with a lot of practice, it's a really fun game, and I feel like I've played this game for so many years now. I grew up with it on PC, and eventually got the Sega CD version. There is an HD version of this game, which is vastly superior to this version. So yeah, I'd highly recommend it, but, you know, like, take it with a grain of salt. Maybe watch some gameplay videos before you play it and try to learn a bit about it more, because it's very misunderstood in terms of how it's supposed to be played. And I know that's not straightforward. It was never straightforward back then. There's nothing in, like, a lot of the manuals to really tell you what you're supposed to do. But yeah, Sonic CD. Number 7 on my list is the first JRPG on the list, and there are a few of them on my list because I'm very into that genre of games. And if I went into like a top 20, there'd definitely be more on the list. But my favorite, and one of my favorites in this series of games in this franchise, is Final Fantasy IV, or 2 when it originally aired here, but it's Final Fantasy IV in terms of its actual number. I love this game. I love the gameplay. I love the characters. I love the story. I love the graphics in the original version. I like any of the remasters, including the Pixel remaster. They're very good versions. There's plenty of ways to play this game if you want to play it. I highly recommend it. It is one of the best JRPGs of all time, in my opinion. And I feel like where there's so many Final Fantasy games over the years, it gets overshadowed by a lot of games like 7 and 6 and stuff like that. But I've always found that 4 has this nice middle ground where it's just a really solid game that I don't see any flaws in it, but I'm sure there are some there for some people. The job system and stuff in it is great, like all the stuff. It's a really good game. Highly recommend it. Final Fantasy IV. Okay, so my number 6 on this list is a action platformer for the Sega Genesis. Probably the best on the Genesis, in my opinion, and one of the best games on Genesis, one of the best looking, some of the best music. Shinobi 3. This game, ever since I played it when I was a kid, I've been addicted to this game. I love it so much. It's such a good platformer. It has amazing music, amazing graphics, cool story. The pixel art in this is so great. It's such a beautiful game to play. And, like, obviously the music really adds to it. The gameplay is solid. It's one of those games where it can be difficult at first, just like it's the game that came before it, Revenge of Shinobi. But when you get the gameplay down and you perfect it and you get good at it, it feels really good to go through this game. Like, it's one of those games where it's very gratifying to get good at it. And I highly recommend it, and that's why it's my number 6. So, we're into the top 5 now. My number 5 might be shocking to some people that I put games above this game. I do adore this game, and I've played through it many times throughout my life, and I've streamed it, I think, twice. And that game is The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. This game, when it came out, when I was a kid, I was like 8 years old. This game was so crazy. I remember playing it and being like, man, like games aren't going to look better than this. The gameplay is tight. The story is a classic. This game has been remade for 3DS. I think personally it deserves like a full-on remake. With today's technology, I feel like it definitely deserves that. It's one of the greatest games of all time, hands down. You can ask so many people, and this will be in their top 10, if not at their number 1 or top 5 lists. It's one of the best games of all time. Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. If you haven't played this game by some miracle, play it. Just play it. Like, I'm telling you to go play it right now. Once I'm done this list, go play it. So my number 4 on my top 10 is a game that I'm always conflicted at putting it at number 1 because it's probably one of my most played video games of all time. But there are just games that I adore and love the story more than this game. But this also shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. And my number 4 is Minecraft. This is the 360 version because this is the only box version of the game I own. But Minecraft is a game that when it originally released and it was in alpha, I was in college. I've told this story before. I had a friend who was playing it in a seat next to me because I did graphic design, so we all had computers in front of us. And he was playing this game in alpha, and I remember thinking it was the stupidest thing ever. I was like, that looks so dumb. Why would anybody want to play with blocks and stuff like that? And here I am, and it's one of my mainstream games nowadays. It's one of those games that never gets old to me. Obviously, I have burnout from time to time, and I have to stop playing. If anybody knows me on this channel, I have a almost 3-year-old survival world that we started on stream and are continuing and are still going to this day. There's a lot of great builds. If I have a video up here, you'll see a lot of them in the video. It's genuinely one of my favorite games of all time, and the only reason it doesn't go to number 1 is because Minecraft doesn't really have a story, and I do like story in video games. So yeah, Minecraft, definitely one of the best games of all time, just in general anyways. Okay, so now we're into the top 3 games on my list. This 3 always is kind of more interchangeable for me. Sometimes number 3 would be my number 1. Sometimes number 2 would be my number 1. Sometimes they switch positions all the time. But as of right now, I've really tried to think about this for this video, in terms of story and gameplay and how many times I played through these games. And my number 3 is one of the greatest JRPGs of all time, in my opinion. Highly underrated. I feel like a lot of people have never played this game, and it's shocking to me because it's so good. And that is Grandia. Now, this is the Sega Saturn version, but you can play it. There's an HD remaster that you can get and play it. You can play it on PlayStation 1. It's genuinely an amazing game. The gameplay in this is great. The story is so heartwarming. It's one of the few JRPGs or any video game that will make me cry, because there's parts of this story that are you get very attached to certain characters, and when things happen, I won't say anything. It's very emotional. Gameplay wise, this is great. It has like a turn-based / active battle kind of deal. It's a weird battle system that this game has, but in my opinion is one of the best in JRPGs in general. I've never gotten tired of it. I love the gameplay of this. The story is great. The graphics are great. You got 2D sprites in 3D environments. And the texture work and the sprites and the animations, the profile pictures for the characters, they're all great. The voice acting is hit and miss with certain characters. A lot of people like it anyways, and I do too. It adds a bit of charm. Great game. Long game to play through. If you're going to go through it, I highly recommend it. It's entirely worth your time. So yeah, Grandia, my number 3. My number 2 is another JRPG. I guess it's more of a tactical RPG than it is straight up JRPG. But this game is another one, like I said, with this top 3 that just switches out constantly. And the only reason I put this game above Grandia is because I do consider the story to be a lot deeper, more meaningful, and it really hits you. It really makes you think about everything, and the story is just as vivid as it was back when I played this game in like 1998, I think, or something like that. I don't remember the exact date this came out. But we're going to talk about Final Fantasy Tactics. This should be no surprise to anyone who knows me as well. I adore this game. It is my favorite in the entire Final Fantasy franchise. If like outside of the mainline games, this game I would play so many times. I've played through this game, I don't even know, man. It's got to be in like the 20s, probably. I've played through this game so much, especially when I was a kid. I used to go through, and there's new things you can unlock, and there's secret areas that are completely optional that if you don't know how to get to them, you'll completely miss it. There's secret characters in this game. I won't say who, but they are in the game. Graphically, this game is fantastic. This game is like a 2D 2D sprite style with like a tile-based 3D system. So if you've ever played games like Tactics Ogre or Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, which is a pseudo sequel to this kind of, you'll love this game. Music-wise, some of the best music in the entire Final Fantasy franchise, in my opinion, is in this game. They might not necessarily be songs that you would know, but if you heard them, you've probably heard some of them before, definitely, especially in the battle music stuff. Very creepy game. The story, I won't go into depth too much, but I'll say that it deals with a lot of issues that happen in real life, such as class issues, where it being, like rich people clashing with poor people, and how poor people are generally treated in the game and story and stuff like that. That's very important to the story. The second part that's important to the story is religion and corruption within religion, and corruption within politics, and how religion, politics, and class kind of all mesh together. And the story of the game comes to this head where it's very, very it's got a very somber ending. It's a very good game. I would highly recommend it. If you like Final Fantasy, if you like any kind of tactical type RPG games, definitely highly recommend it. Gameplay wise, this game is fantastic. It's turn-based, tile-based, tactical strategy kind of deal. Very, very good. I honestly, I don't think that there is a better one, in my opinion. It's literally one of the best in its style, if not the best. It has a job system, kind of like some previous Final Fantasy games, where you can switch out jobs on a wheel from each character in your squad and stuff like that, and you can, add abilities from one job and then another job and then mix jobs together. There are secret ones you can unlock. There's secret areas you can unlock. There's weapons that are great that you can unlock. There's characters. It's so replayable. It's insane. So yeah, I would highly recommend it. My number 2 is Final Fantasy Tactics. So my number 1 game of all time is a game that I've played through. I can't even count how many times I've played through this game, whether it be an HD remaster of it or the original version or a re-release version on different console versions. But that game is Metal Gear Solid 3. Snake Eater, but this is the Subsistence version, which has better camera and stuff. This game is a literal masterpiece, in my opinion. The story is the best in the whole franchise, and I don't think many people would disagree with that. They might maybe contend that Metal Gear Solid 1 would be better, but I could never put this game down. This game I've played through so many times. I used to play it online back in the day when it came out. It's one of those games that's such a classic for me, and I'm such a Kojima fan, and I'm such a fan of Metal Gear Solid specifically, that this game is just like perfection to me. I've played through it so many times. Graphically, this game is amazing. It's probably one of the best looking PS2 games there is. In fact, they're doing a remake now, Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta. I personally don't think this game needs a remake. I think this game still holds up very well, gameplay, graphically, musically, everything. I think this game is very solid. I think there are other games in this series that deserve a remaster more, like Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake, or Metal Gear, or even Metal Gear Solid. But I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the remaster. I mean, the remake, sorry. The story of this game is just so great. It sticks with you like a long time, and if you're into the series, this is canonically this is the first part of the story. Even though it's the third game in the series, or fifth, I guess you could say technically, because it goes Metal Gear, Metal Gear 2, Metal Gear Solid 2, and then Metal Gear Solid 3. But yeah, it's a great game. It's an amazing game. All the characters are fantastic. The graphics are fantastic. The voice acting is phenomenal. All the gameplay that's in this is fantastic. There's so many little intricacies to this game that even in a more recent playthrough that I did, I found out about stuff that you could do in this game that I didn't even know about, and I had played through this game like so many times over the years. It's not funny. It's a ridiculous amount of detail that went into this game. Out of any Metal Gear Solid game in the series, I'd say this game has the most put into it. Which is why the remake is really contentious for me, because I want it to be good. I don't want it to like tarnish the legacy of how great this game is to me. It means so much to me, and when it came out, I was at a point where I was in high school. I adored this game when it came out, and I still do today, and that's why it's my number one. And generally, even though my top three always do flip-flop around, this game a lot of times does come out as the top because of how many times I've played it, and I don't get sick of the story, and I don't get sick of the gameplay. It doesn't get boring to me. Highly recommend it. If you like Metal Gear Solid or you like Hideo Kojima games and you haven't played this game, which would be shocking because it's a classic, play it. It's absolutely one of the greatest games of all time, in my opinion. And yeah, that's it for my list. So that was my top 10 list. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it very much. If you agree with a lot of the games on my list, let me know. If you have some of your favorite games, comment them down below. I'd really like to hear other people's lists of favorite games, or if any of these games appear on their lists. Once again, it's subjective, so if there's a game on this list that you think is trash, that's absolutely fine. I'm okay with that. It's not going to offend me in any way. I don't care. But I would like to hear other people's favorite games, because I do actually see merit in that I can find games that maybe I would not play otherwise. And hopefully there may be some games on this list that you haven't played that you can pick up and play now. So if you like the content, please like and subscribe here. Also follow me on my Twitch. I stream almost every day of the week. And I'll see you guys in the next one.